ready to. We getting ready to. So ready to. Oh, so ready to.
I'ma go get it.
We getting ready to.
I'ma go get it.
We getting ready to.
I'ma go get it.
We getting ready to. So ready to. Oh, so ready to.
We ready for jump ball, center court now, standing tall now, hold the fort down. This is showtime, more than sports now, more than crunch time. We rush like fourth down.
I be taking win, we don't mess with laws. I be taking win, we don't mess with laws. I be taking win, we don't mess with laws. I be taking win, we don't mess with laws. We been on that paper chasing all that fashion. We been on that paper chasing what you ration.
Been in the grind now, we ready for prime time, ready for shine now. We ready to get mine. On the rise, all eyes up on us now. Blast off spaceships till the touchdown.
Energy level on high, put that trouble on fire. Double it down, I'ma spit it around. Click, clack, boom, we the best in town. Energy level on high, put that trouble on fire. Double it down, I'ma spit it around. Click, clack, boom, we the best in town. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though.
We getting ready to. So ready to. Oh, so ready to.
Hey, dramatic wait right there. Dramatic wait. What's going on? My name is Pro. The light comes on and off just so that you know I'm aware. The quality of the picture is not what I'd like it to be, but it says high def. So we're just going to figure it out. We're going to roll with it. We're going to do what we can. I don't know why this isn't sharing the way I want it to on my page, but it's sharing on all the other pages instead of the way that I want it to. So we're just gonna have to live with it, and think about this for posterity and people that somehow stumble into my page and realize that this is broadcasting, because it isn't broadcasting like the way that it normally does. So yeah, let's see why that is. Let's see. It doesn't tell us why. It's just saying, let's see, ProQuo streaming, the ProQuo Show streaming, Pro Lyrical view on Facebook. Let me see. Says today at 8:55, which it is. All right, now I see me. Now I can see me. Sort of. It's sort of where it's supposed to be, but not really. So there's a little bit of a delay going on, and it's not showing where it normally should show on my live feed. Don't really know how they think that's supposed to alert you all that we are over here, but we are anyways. All right, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit view on Facebook, which is right there. And I am going to say, put it on public. How about that? There we go. I'll put it on public view because it was on private. So yeah, you know what we should do? We should do the whole intro again. Let's do the whole intro again because nobody else got a chance to see it. Ready? Here we go.
We getting ready to. We getting ready to. We getting ready
We don't mess with laws. I be taking wins. We don't mess with laws. I be taking wins. We don't mess with laws. I be taking wins. We don't mess with laws. We been on that paper chasing all that fashion. We been on that paper chasing what you ration.
Been in the grind now, we ready for prime time, ready for shine now, be ready to get mine. On the rise, all eyes up on us now. Blast off spaceships till the touchdown.
Energy level on high, put that trouble on fire. Double it down, I'ma spit it around. Click, clack, boom, we the best in town. Energy level on high, put that trouble on fire. Double it down, I'ma spit it around. Click, clack, boom, we the best in town. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though.
We getting ready to, so ready to, oh so ready to blow.
I'm over here talking like y'all can hear me. It's a good thing that nobody was checking it out yet, and I'm slow to start. So, Lyrical of Invasion, that is the YouTube page. Go to that. Got some videos up there for you. Shout out to my man Quo. Shout out to my man Fly. Shout out to my man LD. Shout out to Jay. Shout out to Jay. Shout out to Jay. We got like so many Jays in the crew to talk about. What is new, folks? What is new? Actor strikes. There's not a lot of new television out there, so you really just should be checking out the ProQuo Show. Let me talk to y'all about my favorite thing to talk about, which is Clubhouse. Those of you not on Clubhouse, you wouldn't know this, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. People on Clubhouse are losing it. They're losing it because they changed the app up. In fact, I have the app pulled up right here. They are losing it. So they changed the format of the app on Clubhouse. If you're on Clubhouse right now, you know that you're losing it. You were just having a conniption fit. I don't really know what a conniption fit is, but you're having one of those if you are on Clubhouse. So they changed the format. I know you can't see it. Well, you can kind of see there in the middle, see like it's recorded. Those right there are the heads of people who are recorded, and you can add to it. It's like a recorded voice message audio kind of thing. But there's also live rooms like always. And that makes a few cool features once people calm down and settle down and realize that it's not all crazy. So yeah, that's what's going on over there. Just wanted to point out that it's going to be okay, folks, in Clubhouse. It's going to be all right. You're going to be okay. It's going to be all good. Shout out to everybody watching the show. My name is Pro. You're checking out the ProQuo Show. This is my little laboratory of fun up here. I'm on the top floor. I'm in the attic. It's hot. It's been 100 degrees every day in DC, the DMV. I'm in extremely Northern Virginia, minutes away from DC, and it is very hot. I know it's been hot on the East Coast, but it's really hot right now. And the AC doesn't really get into this room. And you can see the sound pattern. It just feels hot here, doesn't it? So, yeah, it's been hot. Hope everything's good for you. I got a few things to talk about. So let me turn down this volume right here because that's actually Clubhouse on in the background. I'm trying to see the messages people are sending me through there and try to figure it all out. But again, people are losing their stuff on Clubhouse. They're like, my Clubhouse, it's changed. What am I going to do? I got the Disney shirt on. I'm representing Ahsoka Tano. It's good. Last episode was really good. You got to check it out. You're a Marvel fan. You got to check it out. You owe it to yourself. A lot of good stuff going on over there on that app. Getting ready for Loki. Another season coming up. A little Loki excitement for Loki. See what I did right there? You don't get that anywhere else, folks. Yeah. Lots of new music coming from the ProQuo fam. We got my man Quo dropping hits. My man Fly dropping hits. Pro's got a whole bunch in the shop. Shout out to Jay Johnson. We got a whole album worth of stuff we trying to get ready for you. ProQuo got a whole nother album of stuff almost ready for you. I got some singles and stuff like that coming, and we got video updates come. There's a lot going on, just a lot in the shoot right now. It's a creative time in the world. People are back to school. We understand that. It still feels hotter than ever. The pool is open here this weekend. It's open next weekend as well. Tomorrow's definitely a pool day. It's going to chill a little bit. It's going to only be down to 87, 88 tomorrow. So it's going to be ideal pool weather. I know New England's been warm as well too. But let's get into the crux of what I want to talk about. So I started thinking about what kind of posts would I like to do to test out the waters on Clubhouse, right? So I'm just talking about economics, right? Economics, because the world is still dealing with the whole economical situation. Let me turn this mic towards me over here. Dealing with the whole economics of post-COVID. Some people are winners, some people are losers in that game. Depending on what your industry is, it was either tough for you or it worked out really well. Now, if you own a multinational company, you probably expanded your business to the tune of 55 companies in our country continue to pay no taxes. And this is always swept under the rug. There's lots of stuff in the media that many people have been paying attention to. The ridiculousness in Florida is always one of them. Killings, racial calamity. It's the best way I can say it. A governor that is insanely ridiculous. There's these kind of things that go on, and we just kind of take them for granted. We're another crazy day in Florida, or another killing, right, from senselessness of guns or whatever in the country that are out of control, right? We'll talk about all that kind of stuff. But let's talk about this, something that we just talk about and people just forget about it and go on business as usual because it's what am I going to do? Here's my thing. Legislation to loosen restrictions on business. People like that. If you're pro-business, you like that, right? And we love to beat our chest in America and go, yo, it's so cool that we are pro-business, right? You can come here and anything's possible. Hands off, laissez-faire, let the businesses run amok, do what they got to do, let the market sort it out, right? Except when you don't have any regulations, you get the housing crisis that we had in 2008, right? Where too big to fail, they weren't too big to fail. We had to bail out the too big to fail, sets the country back. We get more into a deficit and so forth, and you have to be bailing out the auto industry and all kinds of stuff. To bail out or not to bail out, big issue. We're not going to tackle it here. But what we are going to talk about is why let it get to that, right? Why do we let kids have their hand in the cookie jar with no parental supervision? That's what it is when two different kinds of banks can operate in the same playing field and do whatever they want. And we saw the travesty that happened in the savings and loans and financial institutions and We could talk about the repeal of Glass-Steagall. We could talk about all these kind of things that are out there. But the most common sense one, we got 55 companies that pay no federal tax. We see these reports all the time. 2020, sort of the latest round of articles that came out that people had access to the data for, right? I'm actually going to pull up the article and share it with you to see what I'm talking about here. So I'm going to go to my share screen. I'm going to give you this one. All right, let's look. So you see the ITEP initials up on the top left-hand side. You have no reason to be paying attention to things like the ITEP unless you are somebody who's into economics and you're paying a lot of attention. But what they do is they put out sort of monitoring what's going on, right, in terms of like who's getting unnecessary tax breaks. So let me jump to this part and let me blow it up just a little bit. No tax corporations continue a decades-long trend. Now, when I was an undergrad in college, we knew this was happening. Y'all hear Bernie talking about it all the time. But because it's white collar, emphasis on white, we just don't pay attention to it. It's not as juicy as blaming the racist-laden comments that we always get on the news. The welfare moms are taking the money and they're getting over, right? On average, if you have a family that's making $15,000 a year, we're jacking their income up to about $25,000 extra to get them into the low 40s. So let's say we're doing $25,000 a family. Now, that's not all scamming. A lot of that is needed, right? So depending on where you stand on that, it usually falls along political lines. Conservatives will usually not want quote unquote handouts, right? But we'll want safety nets for certain things like Social Security, let's say. And we'll want bridges and roads, and we'll want public schools and firemen and police and all these kind of things, but not necessarily when it comes to things like taking care of our most vulnerable, because we have these mythos. We have this myth about who the people are that are on welfare, which we know the majority are white, right? So when you take your racial biases into consideration, just stop and do this. Do this little exercise. Think of a welfare mom. What does that lady look like to you? Think of a welfare dad. What's the picture you have in your eyes, right? And why did they get that way? Is it they're lazy? Or you were born into a place with bad luck, right? Maybe it's a combination of the two. Whatever your slant, $25,000 a year we're talking about. And people will point to, she stole too many eggs on her wick, right? Or you stole some juice, right? We're literally blaming the victims when we could be looking at this. And I'm not saying the corporations are to blame. They're just exploiting loopholes and tax havens overseas. So I want you to pay attention here to FedEx and Nike. The delivery giant FedEx, this happens all the time, 3 years straight usually. The delivery giant FedEx zeroed out its federal income tax on $1.2 billion of U.S. pre-tax income in 2020 and received a rebate of $230 million. So to add insult to injury, not only did they pay no taxes federally on $1.2 billion of U.S. tax income, they got a rebate of $230 million. Let's look at Nike. Some big names you know about, right? Same idea. $2.9 billion federal tax income last year. Instead, this article came out last year, 2 years ago. Instead, enjoying a $109 million tax rebate. All right. Some other companies, their Dish Network, Salesforce, and so forth. Similar tune, to the point that 55 very profitable companies avoided no taxes. They avoided all taxes, I should say, paying nothing. Now, a lot of the names you won't know. And when you see, just, hint for those playing along at home, these are in millions. So when you see 1,000 millions, that means billion. That's 1.2 billion. So Advanced Micro Devices, who you probably never heard of unless you're in that industry, they brought in 1.2 billion. What was their effective tax rate? 0. Now, the effective tax rate for corporations is supposed to be about 21%. All right. So these are all, when you see a negative, what does that mean? Look at this company right here, American Electric Power. They made $2.1 billion in U.S. pre-tax income. And what their effective tax rate was negative 6.4%. It shouldn't be laughable, but I'm laughing because I don't know what else to do. That is a rebate. That's why there's a negative. So all these companies with negatives receive rebates. Okay, so not only are we collecting nothing from them when we're supposed to be collecting 20% approximately on average, we are dishing them back money, pun intended. So there's your FedEx, there's your First Energy, right? It goes on and on. So these 55 companies, when taken on the aggregate, you can look at the amount that is there. That's 40,482 millions, right? That those total 55 companies received from their income from doing their business. And on the aggregate, what they really had to deal with in this column, you see all the negatives right here. I mean, I can only laugh because it's nervous. That is their income tax. So a negative means they got a rebate. So these biggest companies here, most of them, end up getting money back to the effective tune of negative 8.6% effective tax rate. How would you like your tax rate to be negative 8.6? You could argue that 20% is too low for a company, considering most people pay more than that. But that's neither here nor there when it's really negative 8.6 for those companies. Well, how are they doing it? Tax breaks, people letting their foot off the gas when it comes to the regulations, the loopholes, stuff we've known forever. But again, it's not exciting on a news report. It's not exciting here, but at the ProQuo Show, where we pay zero attention to ratings, we can talk about these things, right? Let's go back up here. Let's circle up. Remember your boy Donald was talking about this stuff, right? Now, with most corporations reporting their third year of results under the new corporate tax laws pushed through by President Donald Trump in 2017, it's crystal clear that TCJA failed to address loopholes that enable tax dodging and may have made it worse. And he said this, right, in the debate. He said, hey, me paying no tax myself doesn't make me a crook. It just makes me smart, right? And he continued that deal for his buddies. This is why you see the Republican Party act like, oh, know what he's doing, right? Whether nobody wants to say anything for so long. Well, some folks are coming home to roost right now. But anyways, that is neither here nor there. Either let's just get into mathematics, shall we? Math is fun. Companies' low tax rates rely on a variety of familiar tax breaks. What do they get to do? They write off stock option related expenses, accelerated depreciation, overseas tax havens where you can just stash your money overseas and not have to worry about it, right? This is the meat and the potatoes. So after we talk about FedEx with the 6.9 billion and Nike with the 4.1 billion, and hey, good for them. They're exploiting what they should, right? But we got to pressure them to do what Chuck D says. I like Nike, but wait a minute. The neighborhood supports and put some money in it. Now that you're really seeing the picture. All told, these 26 companies received $70 billion in pre-tax U.S. income in the first 3 years and collectively enjoyed a tax rebate of $4.6 billion, right? That's what happens when we go through these numbers. Conclusion, what's happening? What's going on? We get about 180, and I'm going to stop sharing this. We get about $180 billion of company money that should have been collected from those 55 companies. And this is, from all companies, right? About $180 billion in waste, right? That doesn't get collected. And I just want to do the little math operation. We should almost share a white screen and do the math at home. It'll be so fun. But I won't put you through that pain. But I will say this, 25,000 for the folks on welfare for a whole family, right? With 25 grand, it takes 4 of those people to make 100 grand. Times 10 gets you up to $1 million, and 4 times 10 is 40. So you've got 40 people taken care of with $1 million, okay? Or 40 families, right? Multiply it by 1,000, you got $1 billion, okay? That's what $1 billion pays for. 40,000 families with $1 billion. But we're not talking a billion, we're talking 180 billion. So if you want to go multiply 180 back by that 40,000 families, you can see how many families we took care of. And big hint, that's a big number. That's a lot of cities in the United States that would take care of, and a whole lot of rural folks too. So while we point our finger at she's stealing Kool-Aid out of the store and it's making the conservative local news in your city, that's where you're paying your attention. It's satisfying your Bain lowest common denominator gut reaction of prejudice, of bias, of racism, because we all have it. Not to say we all walking around racist, but we all have the ability to judge things quickly. It's a survival skill. We generalize, but unless we untrain ourselves from the generalization, we will make assumptions that just aren't true and don't serve us well, and instead pit us against each other, when really the real enemy is the tax code. And how does it happen? It happens with partisan politics, right? It happens with one group being all for, the other group being all nay, not a lot of people working together. And then things happening when new administrations come in. It's like the cat's playing, the mice are playing when the cat's away, right? Kind of thing. So unless there's some oversight, unfortunately, yes, your liberties are going to be a little bit affronted, right? Kind of like having to wear a mask. Little things are going to have to happen to make sure that the market takes care of itself, because the market won't take care of itself. Loopholes will be exploited. And this is the tangible math of what happens. All right. So my little operation for folks is somebody want to go do 40,000 times 180 to see how many families you can take care of with the money that was just wasted right there. And that's to say nothing of, that's just 1 year, right? That's just, imagine getting a family back on its feet for a year. How many families getting it back on their feet? How many other things wouldn't have been impacted if those families had money that was inputted into the economy and stimulated the economy in a positive way, where people are feeling like that they are covered, right? They are good. They are not a drag on the system, because we wouldn't have all the negative stories and the camera pointing, whatever, to facilitate the fact that this is happening on the high end, because we're not going to point the cameras there. So we got to point the cameras over here and make people feel like villains for living and subsiding in an area where we have some of the greatest dispersion of wealth and division between the haves and the have not in human history, at least in this country, I should say. So this country, the exacerbated situation of the inequity of wealth is unbelievable, and it only gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I want to point this out too. Fun hack: go to McDonald's and go order an ice cream cone. An ice cream cone is now $2. Wasn't long ago an ice cream cone was $1. So you can see food went up 100% there, right? If you just look at ice cream cone, it went from $1 to $2 in a relatively short amount of time. 6 years maybe. I was buying ice cream cones for $1 at McDonald's. In 6 years, it goes up 100%. Has your salary gone up 100%? We talk about gas prices all the time. They fluctuate. They go up and down, right? The home market. Is your home market receding anytime soon? Like if you bought a home for $500,000, maybe 6 years ago, it's approaching double in a lot of markets in the United States, right? It's not quite double. It's like 50% increase in a lot of places. That's insane. Has your salary went up 50%? Chances are it hasn't, right? Chances are in a lot of places it stayed stagnant. It hasn't even gone up for increases in the cost of living. These are the things that make it untenable to live where we're at, right? Is when you have rising cost of doing business and living and wages stagnate, right? Why is that happening? When few own everything worth owning in the country, right? And the masses of the people that are working or below working poor, the bargaining power, the unless it's revolution, you don't really have any say. You don't really have a typical voice unless your voice is taken into consideration through the voting process or the resistance of said process, right? Which can be peaceful protests and so forth, and writing your congressman. But who has time to do that when you're on the bottom side of the shelf in terms of the income? So that was my first thought of a post. And why do we not pay that much attention? This all connects to back to school time, because I think about how low paid my fellow educators are on worldwide, right? Especially in this country. We look at the average salaries that educators make. From state to state, it varies widely. Some states $35,000, others $50,000. But the job that educators do, unless you've done it, and they're paid for 9 months, by the way, they're not paid for 12 months. Why do we choose a country of great wealth, especially up here, to not pass that wealth back to our biggest investment, which should be our children? Answer? I'll let you think about for 10 seconds. If you guessed the super wealthy don't have their kids in public schools, you guessed right. That is why. The super wealthy elite folks in this country do not have their kids in public school. So why would they advocate for the public schools if they're all about them? If they're all about self, if they're all about their voters' concerns, right? Big business wanting more money in taxes to go to paying for other people's kids to help level the playing field. Why would we want such a thing, right? Food for thought. That's what you can talk about. when you got a show that's just doing it for the love, baby. Rappers, artists, don't do it for the love. Do it for the love and because you want your art to be a viable way of existing as well. Faculty, don't do it for the love. Do it for the love as well as the fact that you should be able to sustain yourself in a fair way based upon the job that you're actually doing and the value that it has. How are our values aligned when CEOs, the top 50 of the top 100 CEOs, have a median pay of approximately $25 million? Do you know anybody making $25 million? Unless you know an NBA player or a Beyonce or something like that, right? Most regular people aren't making $25 million, but CEOs are. They look like regular people when they go to work, wearing the same uniform as everybody else in the white collar world, right? It's hard to tell someone making 100,000 apart from someone making two. And it's really hard to tell someone making two from someone making $1 million, unless you can see the little accoutrements that they have on the side, but just people going to work. A $25 million person or $100 or $200 million person, which all the top CEOs are in that stratosphere. Do you know how many employees you can pay if you took a CEO salary and cut it in half? If a CEO is making 200 million, could they live off 100? Right? Could someone making 100, could they live off 50? So imagine we just cut CEO pay in half tomorrow, right? Would they leave to go to a different job? No, because we cut it in half across the board. All jobs would be brought down 50%, right? Do you think they do the job? Yeah, right. That they would. But do you see all teachers doing the job? No. There's a great exodus from teaching. Teachers are leaving. My son is missing 3 educators in his grade. This is happening all over the country. People are just finally to a pushing point. We've been talking a lot about mental health, and we had a worldwide global pandemic. People are just like, enough is enough. Life is too short. I need my sanity. I need my health. Why do we let it come to this, right? Those are the big issues. Are they addressed in your music? Are they addressed in your art? Are they addressed in your culture? Are they addressed where you consume your information and news? If not, think about consuming all of that in a different spot. And you can do so at the ProQuo Show. Next week, next time, we'll check you out. There's just a quick little pop-up. We're going to advertise who we got coming up for the weeks ahead. Thanks for hanging with me.